You know how people always say, when you retire, just move into a retirement community. It's easy, social, and stress-free. Well, I tried thinking about it, and honestly, it just didn't sit right with me. I wanted something different, something quieter, simpler, and, dare I say it, actually mine. After downsizing from a house that was way too big for one person and a dog who thinks he owns it anyway, I made a choice that surprised even me. I picked a smaller home over a retirement community. And let me tell you, it changed everything. From freedom to laugh at 2 a.m. to sipping coffee without someone's schedule dictating my life. It's been a wild ride. Stick with me because I'm about to share 10 reasons why this move has been one of the best decisions of my life. And maybe, just maybe, it'll make you rethink what retirement living really means. Number 1. Freedom to live on my own terms. You know, I never realized how much of my life had been scheduled by other people until I stepped into my smaller home. In retirement communities, even the nicest ones, there's always a routine, meals at fixed times, organized activities, announcements over the intercom. At first I thought, great structure. But then I remembered that life is more than following someone else's timetable. The first morning in my new place, I stayed in bed until 10 a.m., rolled over, grabbed my coffee, and listened to Johnny Cash on full blast. Nobody banged on my door saying, "It's breakfast time!" Nobody judged my pajamas, which, by the way, were heroic, hole-ridden relics from college. I could read, sip, and even talk to Winston, my scruffy dog, without worrying about looking retirement appropriate. And it goes beyond the obvious. I can rearrange furniture at 2 a.m., blast Sweet Home Alabama while dancing around the kitchen, or paint the walls a ridiculous neon green just because it makes me happy. One gentleman put it perfectly. Freedom isn't just about being alone. It's about being yourself without anyone's permission. That hit me. It's like reclaiming little bits of yourself that had been patiently waiting, tucked under decades of schedules, expectations, and community rules. You see, freedom here isn't chaotic. It's intentional. I get to decide what kind of morning I want, how loud I want my music, when to eat, when to nap, and yes, when to binge-watch westerns until the sun goes down. These choices may seem small, but each one contributes to a life that truly feels like mine. And let me tell you, that feeling? It's priceless. 2. Lower monthly costs without hidden fees. Now let's talk money because, honestly, freedom feels better when it doesn't come with a hidden bill waiting to ambush you. Retirement communities look enticing on paper. All-inclusive amenities, social activities, meals. Sounds fantastic. But behind that shiny brochure lurks a little monster. Hidden fees. Maintenance, community funds, extra service charges, activity fees. It adds up faster than you can say, "Oops, there goes my retirement fund." Downsizing into a smaller home was a revelation. My monthly costs are clear, simple, and predictable. Mortgage or rent, utilities, and a bit for groceries. Done. No mystery line items or surprise bills. And suddenly, I had extra cash for the things I actually care about. A coffee machine that makes espresso worthy of an Italian cafe, spontaneous weekend getaways, or even just a little indulgence on a fancy dessert. A fellow senior man shared his story of downsizing and said, "For the first time in decades, I can afford to do things just for fun, without feeling guilty." That resonated with me because that's exactly how I felt. Downsizing didn't just free up my living space, it freed up my financial space too. And here's the kicker. Fewer expenses don't mean a boring life. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I get to spend money on small joys that make life colorful, instead of giving it to a community that decides what my happiness should look like. Every dollar saved feels like a tiny rebellion, a reminder that retirement isn't about giving up. It's about getting smarter, leaner, and yes, a little mischievously independent. 3. Privacy that feels like a hug. You know, I didn't fully appreciate privacy until I had it. In a retirement community, even the quietest one has this low hum of activity. Footsteps in the hallway, neighbors chatting on their porches, someone practicing the tuba at 7 a.m. It all adds up. And while I like people, I realized I really like being alone sometimes. Moving into my smaller home, I discovered what I now lovingly call privacy that feels like a hug. It's not lonely, it's comfort. I can sit on my porch with a cup of coffee, listening to the wind ruffle the leaves, and not have to explain why I'm sipping my third cup or why I'm still in pajamas at noon. I can laugh at a silly memory or even cry at a sad movie without an audience. I can nap at 2 p.m., wake up whenever, and no one bats an eye. One woman on a forum described it perfectly. She said moving into her own little home was like wrapping herself in a blanket made of quiet and calm, and she wasn't exaggerating. There's something rejuvenating about knowing your space is yours entirely. You can control the lights, the noise, the temperature, and even the music. No bingo background tracks for me, thank you very much. It's a kind of peace that seeps into your bones, the kind that makes you realize privacy isn't just being alone. It's feeling safe, cozy, and completely in charge of your own little world. 4. A sense of belonging in the neighborhood. Here's the irony. You'd think living in a retirement community would give you community, but it's a very curated kind. Everyone's the same age, everyone's trying to fit into the same mold, and social interactions are scheduled. It's nice, sure, but it can feel a little like being in a human-shaped fishbowl. When I downsized into a smaller home in a regular neighborhood, I got something far richer: unpredictability, diversity, and real connections. My neighbors aren't all retirees. They're families, young couples, college students, even a few artists who always leave mysterious chalk drawings on the sidewalk. I've helped kids rescue trapped hamsters, exchanged recipes with Mrs. Ramirez across the street, and even ended up at an impromptu barbecue where someone brought a guitar, and we all ended up singing poorly but with enthusiasm. One senior put it brilliantly. I never realized I missed the chaos of normal life until I was back in a real neighborhood. The squeals of kids, dogs barking, the occasional neighbor yelling about a missing garden gnome. It's lively and real. And that's it. Belonging isn't just about being around people your age. It's about feeling like you're part of a living, breathing community that isn't artificially arranged. It's messy, it's fun, it's unpredictable, and I wouldn't trade it for any bingo night in the world. 5. Tailoring the space to exactly what I need. Here's one of the things that truly made downsizing feel like a liberation: the ability to make every square inch of my smaller home work for me. In a retirement community, you get what you get. It's functional, yes, but it's a one-size-fits-all sort of arrangement. Your kitchen might be perfectly fine for someone who microwaves everything, but if you love cooking like I do, it can feel like trying to make a gourmet meal in a shoebox. When I moved into my smaller home, I got to build a space that fits me. I designed a sunlit reading nook where I can sprawl with a good book, my cat, and maybe a cup of coffee that's dangerously close to tipping over. I arranged my kitchen so that my favorite gadgets are at arm's reach, my spices are within shouting distance, and yes, I even carved out a tiny corner for a miniature herb garden because I wanted to feel like a slightly eccentric chef. Every shelf, every corner, every wall is mine to tweak, rearrange, or decorate however I like. And to keep everything running smoothly, my routines, my meals, my meds, even my budget, I use a senior wellness planner. It's like having a little command center for this new, smaller life of mine, so the space doesn't just look like it fits me, it actually works for me. If you want to check it out, the link is in the pinned comment below. I once spent an entire Saturday reorganizing my living room just because the sunlight hit the rug differently in the morning than it did yesterday. And it felt amazing, like the house was alive, and I was tuning it to its perfect rhythm. Another senior turned her tiny attic into a full-fledged art studio, saying, "Finally, a space that reflects who I am, not who someone else thinks I should be." That's exactly it. Downsizing isn't about giving up room. It's about designing the space that actually works for you, quirks, hobbies, and all. 6. Control over my daily routine. Ah, the sweet bliss of controlling my own day. Retirement communities promise convenience and structure, but I realize that having someone else decide your schedule can feel oddly restrictive. Breakfast at 8 a.m.? Fine, but what if I just had a late-night binge on westerns and want to sleep in until 10? Social hour at 3 p.m.? Lovely, but I might rather nap. In my smaller home, the schedule is mine. I wake up when I want, and sometimes that's at sunrise for coffee on the porch. Other times, I'm happily groggy until mid-morning, sipping tea and watching Winston attempt some new form of acrobatics on the couch. I can nap at 2 p.m., bake cookies at 6 p.m., and maybe binge-watch old episodes of MASH at midnight without feeling like I'm breaking some invisible rule. One senior shared that moving into a small home gave him the gift of natural rhythm. And that's the perfect phrase. There's nothing structured or imposed. Every day is dictated by my mood, my energy, and my whims. It's like my life finally caught up to me instead of the other way around. And honestly, there's a kind of joy in small rebellions. Deciding when to eat dessert, choosing which chair to read in, even turning the music up too loud. These little freedoms, stacked day after day, add up to a life that feels alive, spontaneous, and entirely yours. 7. Freedom to adopt pets. Or 3. Here's a fun one. Pets. Retirement communities often have strict rules about them, and I get it. They don't want cats knocking over communal plants or dogs barking at 6 a.m. When I downsized into my own little home, I realized something magical. I could adopt anyone I wanted, or 3 if my heart felt like it. I started with Winston, my scruffy rescue dog, who thinks he's a guard dog, but really just guards the sofa from invisible threats. Soon, I found myself daydreaming about a cat, maybe a tuxedo one named Sherlock. And why stop there? There's something liberating about being able to say, yes, I will adopt that adorable furball, without signing endless forms or pleading with a housing manager. One man shared a story about moving into a small house and quickly adopting 2 cats and a parrot. He called them his retirement council because they were always around, offering unsolicited advice in the form of meows and squawks. I laughed when I read that because it's so true. Pets become part of your daily rhythm. You're never truly alone. You always have a reason to laugh, and they somehow make even the smallest house feel expansive. Plus, caring for pets adds a little structure and purpose without anyone telling you what to do. You feed them when they're hungry, walk them when they need exercise, and love them unconditionally. It's freedom and responsibility wrapped in fur. And honestly, nothing makes a lazy Sunday better than a dog sprawling across the couch, a cat trying to sit on your laptop, and the quiet knowledge that all of this chaos is completely yours to enjoy. 8. Creative expression that feels real. Here's a point that really hits close to home. Creativity. Retirement communities can offer craft hours or art clubs, which is great if you enjoy that structure. But what if you want to paint a mural at 3 a.m. because inspiration hit you? What if you want to turn a tiny attic into a music studio or build your own woodworking bench in the garage? Downsizing gave me the space, and more importantly, the freedom to let my creativity run wild. I can paint, sculpt, build, garden, or even attempt to play the guitar without someone handing me a schedule or scolding me for being too messy. I once spent an entire weekend turning my sunroom into a mini art studio. Paint was everywhere. My cat tried to help by walking across the wet canvas, and it was glorious. It didn't matter if the walls got a little splattered or if the house smelled faintly of turpentine for a week. That mess was mine, and every brushstroke felt like reclaiming a part of myself I hadn't realized I'd been missing. One senior gentleman shared a story about converting his downsized home's basement into a woodworking shop. He said the joy wasn't just in making things. It was in the freedom to choose what to make, when to make it, and how to make it, without asking for permission. That resonated with me because creativity isn't about following instructions. It's about expressing yourself, sometimes loudly, sometimes messily, and always authentically. Downsizing gave me a home that didn't just shelter me, it nurtured the parts of me that like to tinker, create, and make life a little more colorful. And honestly, when I look around at my small, slightly chaotic but fully personalized space, I feel more alive than I did in my oversized, perfectly managed old house. 9. Peace of mind. About aging in place. Here's something that really hit me after downsizing. The comfort of knowing that my home is set up for me, not for someone else's idea of convenience. Retirement communities often promise support as you age, which is great on paper. But in reality, you're giving control over your day-to-day life to someone else. You might need permission to install grab bars, adjust your shower, or even make little changes to make your home safer and more comfortable. That felt limiting. When I moved into my smaller home, I could plan everything exactly the way I wanted it. I installed grab bars in the bathroom, rearranged furniture to minimize tripping hazards, and made sure every light switch and shelf was exactly where I needed it. I even added a little slip-resistant rug in the kitchen, because let's face it, I like to dance while cooking, and gravity doesn't always wait for me to be careful. One senior guy took a similar approach and said, "Knowing that I've set up my home for me, with my habits, my pace, my quirks, it's the first time in years I've felt truly safe and independent." And that's exactly how I feel. Downsizing wasn't about limiting myself. It was about creating a home that grows with me, where I can age with dignity and confidence, and where every corner is familiar and under my control. There's a peace in that knowledge, a quiet reassurance that if I stumble, I've already planned for it. It's like giving yourself a gift of foresight, wrapped in comfort and wrapped in your own 2 hands. And honestly, no amount of communal care in a retirement center could replicate that. 10. A lifestyle that fits me, not the template. And finally, the big one, the lifestyle itself. Retirement communities can be lovely, don't get me wrong. They offer structure, convenience, and social opportunities. But here's the thing. They're designed for a template, a one-size-fits-all version of retirement. And after living decades of life that's entirely mine, I didn't want to fit into anyone else's version of what my golden years should look like. Moving into my smaller home let me craft a lifestyle that fits me perfectly, quirks, passions, and all. I can wake up when I want, spend the morning talking to my plants, cook the kind of meals that make my kitchen smell like nostalgia, and still have the energy for spontaneous adventures. One day I might be gardening. The next, I'm binge-watching old westerns or building a DIY bookshelf that looks more like an abstract sculpture than furniture. The point is, it's my life, not a pre-packaged schedule someone thought would make me happy. I read a comment that summed it up beautifully. I wanted a life that's mine, not a life that's pre-packaged for retirees. That struck me because it's true. Downsizing gave me the space, the freedom, and the flexibility to live in a way that's authentic. I can be silly, messy, quiet, loud, lazy, energetic, whatever the day calls for. My home supports me, not the other way around, and that, my friend, is priceless. At the end of the day, downsizing didn't shrink my life, it expanded it. It gave me back the small joys, the freedom, the control, and the laughter that I thought only existed in younger years. And honestly, it made me realize that the best part of aging isn't slowing down. It's finally having the space to live exactly how you've always wanted. So there you have it. 10 reasons why I chose a smaller home over a retirement community. Freedom, privacy, creativity, pets, a space that's truly mine. It's not just about downsizing. It's about upgrading the life I want to live on my terms every single day. If you're thinking about making a move or just curious about life after downsizing, I promise there's a lot of joy waiting when you take control of your space and your schedule. And hey, if you enjoyed hearing my story, don't just sit there. Hit that like button. Share it with someone who might need a little encouragement, and subscribe for more tips and stories about making the most out of this stage of life. Remember, it's not about shrinking your life. It's about growing the parts that actually matter, and that, my friend, is worth every square foot.